Officers Meeting, July 21st, 2022. I'm Joel Leclerc, the Zoning Hearing Officer for San Mateo County Planning and Building Department. Deb, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag, I'm sorry, of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which
it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
with liberty
and
and justice for all.
I didn't know
Thank
my
you.
dog knew the pledge.
Yeah, I
I
didn't know.
apologize.
They have a different, they speak a different language.
Yeah.
So we'll now provide an opportunity for oral communication from the public for any matter that is not on the agenda. And Deb will read the instructions for how people can give public comment on unagendized matters. So these are things that are not on our agenda. Is there anybody from the public or here, or is there any one of you who wants to give comment on an item that's not on the agenda? If there's nobody from the public here, we can skip the instructions.
Nobody.
Deb? No, okay, we have nobody. All right, then, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. And there's one item on the consent agenda, and it is a resolution that is an ongoing finding that the continuing COVID-19 pandemic state of emergency declared by the Governor Newsom is still in effect, and that meetings, in-person meetings for the zoning hearing officer will present imminent risks to health or safety of attendees. And for that reason, we are conducting this meeting virtually in Zoom. So I'm going to approve that resolution, and we'll move on to the regular agenda, which is a proposal by Melody Madsen for the renewal of a conditional use permit for a restaurant in Princeton by the Sea. And I'll let Angela provide us with the particulars. Angela?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So sorry. My I have to use the screen. My mouse isn't working. So good morning. I'm just going to give a brief introduction about how I will present the project. So I'll go over the project description, give you the project location, the required permits and project compliance, and then staff's recommendation. So the project site is located between Capistrano Road, the harbor, and the Harbor District's parking lot. I've outlined those parcels here in yellow for you. The existing restaurant, or excuse me, the subject site has 425 linear feet of harbor frontage, as we can see here. The existing restaurant building sits partially on land and partially on piers, but is not located within the mean high tide line. The building covers 66 feet of the harbor frontage and is visible from Pillar Point Harbor and the Johnston Pier. 10-foot wide recorded access easement bisects the property east of the restaurant building. This easement was granted to the Harbor District to provide public access from Capistrano Road to the Harbor District's public fishing pier and harbor trail. The project site is comprised of the two parcels, as I mentioned, the restaurant located on the west side of Capistrano Road, while the parking lot that serves the site is located to the east. The parcel that the restaurant is located on is approximately 11,761 square feet and is zoned Coastside Commercial Recreation Coastal District. Just to give some orientation, here is the existing restaurant. You can see the ocean just to the rear of the site, and the area in question in terms of the amendment that we'll be discussing is off to the left of the photo here. So the applicant proposes to renew the existing use permit to allow for the continued operation of a restaurant. The applicant is also requesting an amendment to the use permit to allow for the removal of one existing outdoor table and chairs, to modify the existing patio area by partially enclosing it and constructing a standing tabletop to allow for outdoor service. So the applicant has currently a previously approved to-go window. You can see just below the fish on the left here, and then the patio area again is just off to the side there. Again, just to provide some orientation, the floor plan of the restaurant site plan, excuse me, is provided here. It does have some of the floor plan details, and here's a zoomed in view of that, with the area in question for the amendment, just with this green box. The existing railing is off to kind of the bottom of the box, and then the blue outlined area would be the new railing that we are discussing. Here's a existing view along with the more detailed outdoor patio modification plans. And then again, the original patio layout for the site is shown here. So those yellow tables that we could see have been removed and replaced with the standing tabletop. So in terms of project compliance, there are several different regulations that come into play for this particular project. The first of which staff reviewed is the county general plan. And staff found the project to be in compliance with the visual quality policies and urban land policies that are defined within this document. Excuse me, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Essentially, these policies seek to protect and preserve the significant public ocean views of the site. Staff found that the existing restaurant continues to be compatible with the surrounding development in both size and scope. The removal of one of the exterior tables, so there's a few along, I didn't actually point them out, but you could see them in the site plan, that there are a few of these yellow tables that previously were located out on the project site. And the removal of the one and along with its chairs addresses to a certain extent previous concerns regarding items that were located within the public right of way and obstructed pedestrian flow. So to your point, what we were trying to, or what the applicant was trying to achieve was a more contained area. So there was a lot more overflow. This area can be used not only to, eat or enjoy a beverage, but can also serve to sort of contain visitors to a more defined site. This allows for just to avoid the overflow, also to avoid the sort of queuing up in the street or along the sidewalk, which would then kind of push people into the street in order to make their way past the restaurant. The partial enclosure of the patio also results in minimal visible impacts, as the railings match the existing see-through railing that was at the site. So it's not a significant change to the development, nor does it impact the ocean views from that site. In terms of the zoning regulations, as I mentioned, the project site is zoned coastside commercial recreation, coastal district, but here I'm just going to talk about the coastside commercial recreation requirements. And basically the site is located, the coastside commercial recreation is divvied up into two sites, or into two designations. This particular site has a shoreline area designation, and restaurant establishments are permitted uses with the issuance of a use permit. This particular use has been present on the site for decades and is a staple of visitor serving uses in the area. The continued operation of the restaurant remains in compliance with the intent and goals of Coastside Commercial District. And the project does not result in any additional building height, lot coverage, impervious surface, landscaping, or changes to setbacks. So it remains consistent. In terms of the coastal development, staff reviewed our local coastal program, and found that the project continues to be consistent as it does not involve the construction of new buildings or alterations to the existing structure. The existing building is a single-story wood building with a pitched roof. The proposed modifications to the existing patio were found to be minor in nature, as the new railing matches the design and natural wood material of the previous railing and is in keeping with the overall design of the building. The project site has direct public access to a small beach located behind and below the restaurant from the sidewalk at Capistrano Road. The applicant did explore a number of different design options when they submitted their original approval, which tried to address different concerns and goals that they had. But this was ultimately, I think, the option that addressed our concerns and hopefully addresses their goals. The staff has also confirmed that the project has the dedicated parking that is required, and that, again, that the outdoor space improves the flow and accessibility in and around the site. In terms of the use permit regulations, staff reviewed the previous use permit conditions of approval for the permit and has determined that the project is in compliance with those conditions. The applicant has been very helpful in providing confirmation of their seating chart, along with compliance with the various parking requirements, and therefore the minor modification has no impact to these previous conditions. So the conditions that remained relevant were continued on to attachment A of the staff report. Staff has conducted site inspections. We also reviewed the file for any correspondence regarding this facility and found no complications or complaints. Therefore, as conditioned, the continued use would have a minimal impact to the surrounding community and would not be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood. The design and operation of the use further the purpose of the Coastside Commercial Recreation District by meeting the service needs of Coastside visitors and residents in accordance with the applicable sections of the Coastside Commercial Recreation District. The minor exterior changes, as I've mentioned, are consistent with the design and scope of the existing development, and that the project conforms to the Coastside Commercial Recreation Zoning District. So the various additional findings required by Coastside Commercial Recreation District are noted here. In terms of the environmental review, staff found that the project was exempt under CEQA, which allows for the continued operation of existing facilities and includes minor additions or alterations. So basically, staff's recommendation is to approve the use permit renewal with modifications and approve the coastal development permit by making the required findings and conditions of approval subject to attachment A of the report. And that concludes my presentation. I am available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for a great presentation, Angela. If you could flip back to the site plan, and well, stop there for a second, please. That photo that yes, and there was another one. And let me tell you where I'm going with this. And it's the that tree on the left. Yeah. Looking at the sort of historical landform that's, here. It was a beach. And we've introduced a bunch of things, to that beach, some buildings and a breakwater and, the harbor district stuff. And so all that stuff's been built on top of the old beach. And that beach didn't have any trees on it back in the day. But one of the things that are struggling with a little bit here is the pedestrian flow, and got this little activity node, here at the restaurant with the takeout window, and the changes that are proposed help address that. As you described, will help contain some of that activity in a way that hopefully will keep it from spilling into the right of way. Are those trees in the right of way, or are they on private property? They're in the right of way.
They are.
Yeah. And then let's flip back to the site plan. I want to say there was a photo that you had.
They aren't in the right of way.
Pardon me?
I don't think the tree is in the right of way. It's off the sidewalk. It's closer to the takeout window. It's not on the sidewalk.
So if we look at the site plan, the property line is actually delineated.
Yeah, you actually have some encroachments into the right of way. You have building encroachments into the right of way. You have stuff in the right of way.
I should note that this has been reviewed by Public Works, and the owner has an easement or encroachment agreement with Public Works.
Yeah, I figured as much. Yeah, I guess I should have asked that too, but I presumed that was already in place. And so I was just looking at there was a view that you had from the parking lot side of the street. There it is. And that tree, from where you took the photo, is kind of right in the middle of it, and kind of, it blocks the view a little bit. The other three trees are pretty much, in line with the building, and not now. Of course, I suppose you could take the photo from further left and accomplish the same thing with the tree on the right. But I'm not suggesting that this be a subject of this permit action at this time, but I'm throwing it out there as something to consider. Maybe taking that tree away on the left to improve the space available for people to circulate. These lollipop trees are a nice addition to the landscape here. When you add a building, it's nice to soften it with landscaping, and including trees that don't block views, especially on the ocean side of the road. But when you've got a very narrow sidewalk, 5-foot sidewalk, and when the activity level is peaking out here, and it looks like the photo is a really good capture. Hard to say. Are those people standing in front of your restaurant trying to decide whether to go in? Are they waiting for a table?
Usually when the to-go window is closed, like it is in this photo, those people are waiting in line to place to-go orders to sit on the tables adjacent to the restaurant.
I see. So yeah, so the photo kind of demonstrates that the sidewalk's narrow, there's not a lot of waiting space, and it's just something to think about, because it could in the long run improve the pedestrian flow out there a little bit. So that's my only sort of comment and question regarding this proposal. And so what I'd like to do now, since we haven't received any correspondence on this item, is to open the public hearing have Deb call on anyone who is wanting to provide public comment. And that, of course, can include you, Melody, and your attorney, Terry, if you'd like to provide any comments about the proposal.
I don't see any raised hands, so I don't know if anybody has anything they want to say.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd like to say, I see your point about the tree, but you know, I hate to cut down the trees because even if it's just one, because it helps with shade for people that are there. I see your point, but to cut down a living tree just hurts.
Oh yeah, no, you're talking to the guy who usually is the one fighting for the trees, right, Angela?
Definitely.
But I'm also a landscape architect, and I like to solve problems. And pedestrian flow in front of your restaurant is a problem. And you know, there's limited options for what you can do. And yeah, I hear your point about shade. And you know, the alternative would be to introduce a shade structure, which would then block views. So you know, you can't have that. So it's always a dilemma and a series of choices that we have to make. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not making a requirement or requesting a change to the proposal. I'm just throwing an idea out there. And so is there anything else you'd like to share about the proposal before we close the public hearing?
I would like to say that what we do when we encourage people to go, we tell people that we don't just take a name and then make people have them wait there. When I take a name and there's a wait for tables, I encourage them to go down the street, go for a walk. They never lose their place on our wait. And when you come back, you're the next person that gets to seat if I've, called their name and they're not there. So I encourage them to go shopping at the mall that's, underneath the Oceano, or, down the street to the gift shop, or down into the harbor to, so that they can enjoy what we have to offer them and then come back. So I just thought I'd toss that out. That's what I do when I'm out there calling names.
Good to know. Thank you. And do you ever admonish people or do the staff admonish people to clear the sidewalk when they start to queue up and pile up in the sidewalk?
Definitely, yes.
And especially when they start, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but especially when they start like standing in the crosswalk, we're like, what are you doing? You gotta, move it over.
Also what we do at that time too, is we open up the other kitchen. We do 2 kitchens. When it starts to get, the line starts to get heavier, then we open up both kitchens so that we can get the line down, so that it gets down. And then of course, then we go back to the 2 kitchens. So we're working with the line too.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for that information. So since there are there's no public comment, I'm going to close the public hearing. And I am ready to approve this application or use permit renewal. But I want to make sure that you have read and understand the staff report, and that you agree with the conditions of approval in the staff report.
And the staff report, the conditions of approval, I don't. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Melody, yes, you did. I went over that.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're okay with that.
Okay.
I think he might be calling it by name that we haven't been calling it, but yes, you have.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Well, I am going to approve this application pursuant to the findings and subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report. If anyone would like to appeal this approval, they can do so by submitting an application for appeal within 1 business days, and the date for that is,
Legal.
let's see, that's August 4th. And so anybody who would like to appeal this application needs to submit the application by then. And along with a $616.35 appeal fee. And so thank you all thank you for the presentation. Thank you applicants for attending. And with that, I'm ready to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.
Hi, Joe. Enjoy your trip.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, thanks, Angela. Nice to see everyone.
Nice to see you too.